Hey guys, how's it going? This is me. It's Friday and heading to the weekend. Kind of excited. Sorry for posting this so late. I actually tried to do this yesterday. I did the whole video and so that's okay. I get to do I guess a second take the next day. How you doing? Busy weekend. We're gonna do some. Me and Gail get to go to a golf tournament. It's for fundraising. My oldest daughter Sarah, she's in Worlds for cheerleading. They made Worlds, really cool. So it's just another fundraiser. And on Sunday evening, part of another fundraiser for the same event is a trivia night. I'm not sure which one I'm more excited for. I think both of them will be pretty awesome, pretty fun. Winding down, you can hear in the background there's some patients here doing some vision therapy, which is really great. And I just did a breakthrough session yesterday. It was so awesome. The results, the what came up was so fun. It's gonna be so exciting to continue working with her as well. Today, I want to talk about purposeful rest, how you rest. I've talked to many colleagues and friends and so on, and one of the themes that keeps on popping up is how hard it can be to take time off work. Oftentimes I hear, if I take time off, who's going to see my patients? Awesome. They love to take care of the patients. It's so important. It's so rewarding. I love interacting with my patients myself. Also, when they take time off, they might feel guilty. While the staff is still working, they're still hanging out there doing what they need to do. It's really hard to detach. Or they take time off work and they're constantly calling back every day just to check in, making sure it's running really well. And at that point, when they're on vacation, always phoning in, or the mind is at least phoning in, maybe. How much rest or how much time are they really giving to themselves? It seems to be a theme that is getting, I don't want to say worse, it's just that it's a conversation that's come up quite a bit lately, which is why I'm kind of talking about it. There's this technique we use, or this activity that we have in vision therapy, and it's called Suni hands and feet. Paul Harris was one that created it. Really simplistically, on the first level, it's like little music symbols. For those of you that know Paul, it kind of hits home that, obviously he loves music, very talented, um, inspiring. And yet he created this idea which each one looks like a music note, and each symbol kind of represents either the right hand, left hand, and right foot, left foot. And as it gets a little bit more complex, higher level, sometimes you have to do hands and feet together and so on. And each note or each symbol represents another activity or an action that you have to do. As the levels get even higher, there's a symbol eventually, I think it's level D or level E, that it represents do nothing, like a pause, like a rest. Now, what's important about that is when he taught it, I remember hearing him say that just because you're doing nothing doesn't mean that there's a lack of an action. It actually represents an inaction. In other words, doing nothing is still an action. It's just the act of doing nothing or an inaction. For whatever reason, that concept really stuck with me. It really hit a little bit. I didn't really know why at the moment. It just sounded kind of, maybe it just sounded cool, or it was something more. See, when patients come to us and they struggle with reading, when they do get better, or they start to see the skills improving in reading, I should say, oftentimes you'll find them when they're reading a paragraph, they're reading and they're reading much better. They're running through each period though as if it doesn't exist, as if the whole paragraph is one long sentence. It's as if they're ignoring the period or ignoring the importance of taking a pause. Why is that important? I want to take it a step further. Yes, period, reading, that's important. I want to bring it back to why I wanted to talk about this was taking the moments in our lives to take that purposeful rest. There was a study done. They wanted to measure what parts of the brain kind of were activated when we're reading. So how the study was kind of put together, you're in a dark room, no lights. It was a computer screen, and there'd be words that kind of flash on the screen like paragraphs, and you would just read the paragraph. And as you're reading the screen, as you're reading the paragraph, you were hooked up, and whether they measure through how much the EEGs, or another study tested the fMRIs, basically where in the brain was it lighting up. They wanted to map the network, the reading network, if you will, the parts of the brain that were responsible for reading. And then eventually, as they were done reading, the words would disappear from the screen, and there'd be nothing on the screen, and then that was their moment of rest or recording nothing. So then they would then say, okay, here's the brain turned off, here's the brain turned on, when it's turned on, what parts are activated when we're reading. The cool part about that study wasn't so much that they knew which areas were I guess, belonging to or responsible for when we read. What I actually liked from that study was they actually mapped out areas when we were doing nothing, when there was nothing to read at all, that other parts of the brain turned on. So again, you're reading, certain areas turn on, and then when you stopped reading, those areas that were responsible for reading turned off, and then other areas of the brain consistently turned back on. They called it the DMN, or the default mode network. Basically, when you're doing nothing, this is the default mode that your brain goes into, rest. What was really cool in this was it wasn't as if the brain stopped working, stopped firing, start activating. There was other areas that were still firing, and when they measured it, it was almost equal in terms of the amount of energy it was using just to do rest. Why is that cool? Well, if you start to think about it, if the brain says in order for me to rest, to do nothing, I still have to work hard at it. That kind of makes sense now when we think about, well, when I want it to take vacation, when I want to cancel a day or move a day or just take time for me, sometimes we feel that little resistance, whether external or internal. Let's be clear, there's still sometimes there. Part of that is because it actually takes work. Part of that takes work to recognize when we need the rest and why it's so valuable, because you're actually setting yourself for something else. Now, I actually had this talk with a really important person in my life, Bob Sanet, today. He brought it to another level of awareness because it was a really cool conversation. And he said, in when they celebrate this, the purpose of rest is so important in the Jewish culture that they actually plan it once a week. And yes, we call it the Sabbath. And he kind of I provided another way I could think about it was not only do they honor it or respect it, the day before they actually start preparing for it. It's like they're preparing for rest. It takes work for rest. I kind of like that concept. Look, at the end of the day, it's not wrong to take care of work. Take care of the patients or attend to family or the things that need to get in. That's just work. You got to do it. Those are chores, those are responsibilities. That's just stuff you need to do. I respect that. However, listening to yourself, the importance of rest, if we don't listen to that, if we don't respect that, what percentage of you are you bringing every day to work? What level of you are you bringing to the relationships, to the important stuff? Because eventually, we all know it. You wait so long, you put it off so much that eventually your body tells you, I need rest. I'm breaking down, I'm tired. At the end of the day, we have to respect that. So, if any of this today resonated with you, it could be just that simple story of somebody who struggles recognizing or maybe ignoring the period at the end of a sentence, struggling with reading and they're just barreling through reading the paragraph like it's one sentence. Maybe that's the important takeaway. Cool. Very important, and yes, that can be addressed. Maybe it's the idea that I need to pay more attention to rest and it's still hard. How do I navigate that? How do I make it in a way that it becomes softer, more gentle, so you don't have to feel the guilt or if you don't have to feel bad about doing it? If any of this, again, resonates with you, let me know. Send me a message, drop me a line or whatever it is. And drop me a line. I don't know. I've never said that. That's really weird. Send me a message, a text, email, whatever. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to be golfing. I'm excited. That should be a lot of fun. Anyways, have a nice day, guys.